right, new week. We'll recap a little bit about the win this weekend. Excited about it. Obviously, the one thing that we're not excited about is the injury that a lot of you saw that was out there on social media. Harold Perkins will be lost for the season with a significant knee injury. We're not certain about the specifics relative to time and place for surgery, but it looks to be, an ACL injury. And again, more details relative to that I can't get into right now, but certainly an injury that, we feel terrible about, especially for Harold and, the work that he's done to put himself in a great position. Look, you lose players all the time. You just feel terrible for them individually because of all the work and time they put in. We'll have somebody else step up like we've had this year, right? We lose Jacobian, and, that was a tough loss for us. But a true freshman, Ahmad Bro, comes in. Does a great job for us the last 3 weeks, and plays great football for us. We lose John Emery. Another true freshman comes in, and Kay Durham does a great job for us. And similarly, we'll have somebody step in here as well. And the next man in will come in and rally and put us in a position where we have success as well. So these are difficult, but we've got really good players that come in and step in and fill in for LSU and move forward. So that was the tough part. The good part was a really good win. What I liked about it the most is I love the energy, the way we started, offensively, driving the ball down and scoring. And what I didn't like is we had some, mental mistakes defensively, but we battled. And in the second half, we shut out, a power four opponent, held them to 14 yards rushing, 64 total yards in the second half. And that goes largely unnoticed, to hold anybody to 64 yards total offense in the second half and 14 yards rushing, and then shut them out 17-0, says a lot about the way this team continues to fight. And now over the last 3 wins they've had, they're 58 points scored, 16 let up in the second half. So those are really good things to build off of. Second half performances. Now we want to build on that for first half performances. But we know we can dominate our opponents in the second half, and now we've got to be able to do that for 4 quarters. So a lot of really good things to take away from that, and a lot of things that we got to continue to build on. So moving into some of the highlights, Garrett Nussmeier was named the Offensive SEC Player of the Week. Continues to do great things, continues to grow in a lot of areas that maybe we don't particularly see. It's not just throwing the football, it's getting in the right plays, making the right checks, and taking care of the football. He's playing at a high level, really a high level. And then on defense, Braden Swinson, SEC Lineman of the Week. His consistent performance has allowed us to get the kind of pass rush, him, Savion, our interior players certainly doing a great job of disrupting offenses. 12 sacks combined, getting the ball out, getting negative plays, really doing a nice job. So those 2 guys getting SEC Player of the Week says a lot about the kind of things that our team is doing on both sides of the ball. It's hard to get those awards in the SEC with so many teams and so many quality players. To get highlighted like that, you know, you got to take a moment, step back, and go, okay, maybe they are doing a couple of things that are pretty good, and we certainly are. So proud of those guys. Mason Taylor, another pretty good player, 8 receptions, 77 yards, receiving yards, became the all-time leading receiver in receiving yards by a tight end, and he'll look to continue to eclipse some more records here at LSU. The offensive line didn't give up a sack for the 3rd time this year. Again, great work in terms of keeping Garrett clean and doing a great job. And as I mentioned, that's 5 sacks for a second straight game for our defense. So really, from my perspective, right? I mean, you're disrupting offenses in a manner that we hadn't over the last couple of years. Special teams, Ramos again, field goals, really clean. And maybe one of the biggest plays of the day early on, the punt from the goal line, the play that Xavion Thomas made on the punt where he was Barry Bonds. Do you guys know Barry Bonds? You young guys here, gals, played center field. Yeah, I just thought maybe we'd do a little great catch, run over the back and make that great catch. I mean, if he doesn't make that catch, that ball hits on the ground, it could be on the 5-yard line. He saves us about 40 yards in field position, and we convert there. But just a great special teams play. I wanted to make sure that we highlighted a little bit of special teams because he's been outstanding and deserves a little bit of credit there. You probably wanted Willie Mays for his catch, but I didn't think I could go that far back here. So I thought maybe Barry Bonds or somebody like that. But anyway. So that's a little bit about the game this weekend. South Alabama comes into town, really good football team. Major Applewhite's done a great job. Catholic high grad, and first year at South Alabama, did a great job at Houston, long time Texas coach, played there, had a great road win against Appalachian State this past week, really, tore them apart 48-14. They rushed for 320 yards against a very proud program in Appalachian State at App State. So, they've got 28 FBS transfer portal players on the roster, 9 of them from SEC schools. This is a team that has some really good football players, led by their quarterback, Gio Lopez, and their running back, Fluff Bothwell. These are 2 outstanding freshman players that you have to keep an eye on. Pritchett, the wide receiver, is very, very gifted and skilled, and an aggressive defense. They can pass rush. Really good backers. So this will be a great challenge for us. A team that's coming in with nothing to lose, but certainly a team that is very capable in a lot of areas. Very athletic, outstanding in terms of their schemes, well coached. And again, we'll have to play really good football against South Alabama. So with that, we'll open up to questions.
Coach, right up the middle. You talked a little bit about it after the game. Could you expand more on the job that Coach Peoples is doing with the diversity of the players that he's coaching, and also your interior defensive linemen, Suggs, McKinley, both had sacks this week. How important will it be as you guys try to figure out this linebacker role going forward?
Yeah, so, Kevin's obviously done a great job with the versatility of, the different players that he has. Savion Jones, Swinson, different types of players. One drops in coverage. The other one is much bigger and more physical at the line of scrimmage. But they also have to rush the passer. They also have to be able to, be great run defenders. Some of the plays that Swinson made in terms of hustle plays, just getting him to play at a higher level coming into to this year. And then add Gabe Relaford, who's a true freshman that's starting to see some playing time. Deshaun Womack, Paris Shand, that whole group has really contributed in a large degree. And then inside, we've been, I think a lot of the offseason was about, what are you going to do with the defensive line? they have been a strength for us. Bo's done a great job of making sure that those guys are gap conscious and fundamentally sound and getting off the ball. And we're playing with, as I mentioned, we had, at one time, we had Relaford, we had McKinley, we had Ahmad Bro, all on the field at one time. So we had a lot of young freshman players. You had Spears at safety. So you have five freshmen, true freshmen on the field at one time, and those defensive tackles are doing a really good job. You had Suggs with his first step quickness. He's healthier now. He was battling an ankle injury. We got him back in the mix. Now now you've got some versatility. You've got some big bodies that can stop the run. You've got some guys now that can add some pass rush. It's starting to come together for us, and I think our part of this is, with first-year coaches and new players, they're starting to get to know who their guys are and who they can lean on in certain situations.
Yeah, Brian, I know there's always a next man up mentality, but what do you lose in Harold Perkins as a player and a person? Maybe some things we're not privy to as a media we don't see.
Well, I mean, he carries obviously an immediate. You got to pay attention to him, right? So from an offensive standpoint, you got to know where he is, so you're game playing against a guy that can wreck your day. So you lose that piece right away. But I think our players clearly understand in this game that you're going to get injuries, and so we're not going to lose our identity or fall apart because of it. But you feel bad for the individual more than anything else. But I think from the other side, I think people would see it as well. They lost a huge piece of their defense, and he is a great player, but there's 10 other players that make that thing happen. And I think it really helps now that our guys understand all 11 have to work harder and have to work together to be the kind of defense we want to be.
Just a follow-up on Harold. Can you speak to the personnel, like who may shift, what you may do to replace Harold and his reps?
Well, if we want to play with three linebackers on the field, the first guy that would move out there would be Whit Weeks. He would play that Sam linebacker position. Greg would move to the Mike linebacker, and West Weeks would move to the Mike linebacker, and Greg Penn would play the Will. So if we wanted to be in Buffalo, we feel like we're still in a really good position. We would probably activate Xavier Atkins as the next Will in that kind of situation. So that's where we would be if we wanted to stay in the configuration that we were currently in last weekend. We would probably look at also going back into a star position with Major Burns playing the star, backed up by Kylan Jackson. That would be the other kind of look that we would have. So we have the versatility to be in either one of those defensive structures.
When you see the disruptive plays, y'all made disruptive plays are up, and I would think your turnovers are causing it, and then you give up a big play or something like that. Are you able to have patience with it and say, okay, those things are still happening on occasion, especially in the first half. As you said, the second half was better, but are you seeing the progress that you want to see overall?
Yeah, so I think you have to look at what are the big plays, right? The ones that you don't accept at any level are the big play runs, right? Where you don't have structure to your defense and you don't have the levels. The runs that we saw against South Carolina, we eliminated those. They were not part of what happened on Saturday. These were mental mistakes. We didn't cover a back coming out of the backfield. We didn't come out of a blitz pattern when we should have been coming out of a blitz pattern and not recognizing, what that was. We got beat on a fabulous throw down the sideline on a back shoulder, I can live with those. Those are competitive plays down the field when you're in man-to-man coverage. Maybe the ones that we'd like to be better on are, the in-breaking routes in man coverage. Let's take away the inside, right? Let's take away the inside. Force the ball outside. Those are the things with some younger players that we've got to just be better at. And those are the areas that we believe that when you walk away at the end of the day, those are correctable, right? The big play runs for 60 and 70 yards, they can't happen. Those are unacceptable. Those were corrected. They can't happen moving forward. There's going to be those occasional plays down the field. We eliminated them in the second half. I think we're on the right path relative to what we want to see defensively. Now let's do our job and eliminate some of the mental mistakes that we saw in the first half.
Can you help me understand the schematics behind Buffalo versus your star package? Is it as
Yeah,
simple as,
3 linebackers versus putting a nickel in.
is it just pass coverage versus run support? What do you like about the two?
Well, it's really formationally driven. So let's call it as it is. Harold Perkins was gifted enough to play a receiver and play both as a linebacker and a nickel. We don't have any of those guys hanging around the locker room other than one. So, you're either in 3 linebackers, right, and then have to deal with that linebacker being in space and covering a lot in space, i.e. against most likely a receiver, or you got to take him out and you got to put a guy that's a hybrid that can play a little bit, in the box, but mostly in space. So that's generally what you're dealing with.
Coach, you mentioned Xavier Atkins, but how are the freshman linebackers sort of developing so far?
I think
this season?
they're developing at the pace that they should be, right? Look, we got a lot of football ahead of us, right? This is an important week for us, as we continue to develop. But, after the bye week, welcome to the SEC, right? We go 7 weeks with, bang, 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 straight of SEC competition. So there's a lot of football ahead of us. We're gradually, you saw Don McKinley, in action. You're going to see more guys that we're gradually bringing along to get involved in more action because the schedule obviously is going to be robust as we go into the last 7-8 weeks of this schedule. So this has really been about building our football team, getting to know our team, know our strengths, know our weaknesses, the things that we have to be better at in all phases of the game. But at the same time, developing some of those younger players so that when we have to call on them, we can get the kind of play necessary to win SEC games.
Looked like y'all played a lot of different guys at safety. After watching the film, can you just kind of walk through how you thought that group did on Saturday?
I think what we're looking for at the safety position more than anything else is, look, we're not putting them on an island as much as what we want is real good leverage on the football, sure tackling, right, and great communication. If I could break it down to just those 3 things, if you give me those 3 things, then we'll begin to add to the menu in terms of doing other things. Then we'll put you on the slot a little bit more. Then we'll bring you down and blitz you a little bit more off the edge. But we need those 3 things. So we kind of peeled it back a little bit and wanted to look at more safeties to get those 3 things down. The fundamentals of playing really good safety require those 3 things. We saw a little bit more of that this weekend. We need to see a little bit more as we get ready to move into SEC play.
Hey, Coach Ivor here. You mentioned it on the offset there, but Braden Swinson, back-to-back weeks, I think he's got 5 sacks these last 2 weeks. What has allowed him to kind of have this, break out the last couple weeks, and kind of what did you see for him this offseason?
I think I said this after the game. It takes 2. It takes coaching, but it takes a player that is committed to that and has worked at it. He has worked really hard in the offseason. He's had a great offseason. He's trained the right way. He's done all the right things relative to nutrition and taking care of himself. He's highly committed. No, he's a veteran player, too. He's played a lot of football. But I think the coaching and I think his want and desire to be the best, it's really connected well with him and Coach Peoples.
Coach, you talked a little bit about South Alabama's offense in your opening statement, but could you share some more about what makes these guys so explosive and how challenging it'll be to defend them this week?
Well, I think you always got to start with personnel. I think the back is really good. He's 218, 220 pounds. He's physical. He's not elite speed, but he's got great vision. He keeps moving his feet. I mean, he's just a really good back. I mean, and you'd be so surprised watching him that he's a freshman. The quarterback's 220 pounds. You know, he's averaging, I think, close to 8 yards every time he touches the ball. Just extremely efficient, and the scheme is outstanding. I mean, I think Major does a great job of, you know, changing things up formationally. They've got a really good scheme in the way they do things. It's not just a two-man, you know, offense, because the receiver's really good as well, but solid offensive line, good scheme, well coached, and the quarterback is difficult to bring down too.
Hey, Coach, this is more just making sure on Harold, with him being draft eligible next spring. You don't have any information that would undercut the assumption that he has played his last game here, and
Oh, I don't think any of those decisions are made. Way too soon for him to, or his family, to have made any kind of declaration whether this is his last game or not. I think they're just trying to get a hold of the surgery and the rehab associated with it. He'll take all that into consideration, and then when it's time to make a decision, he'll make a decision. Certainly he has plenty of time before he has to make that decision.
if it is, could you just offer maybe some more big picture comments on his 3 seasons so far? That what isn't, you know, the impressions.
Well, it's been 2 seasons and 4 games, so it's not even 3. So, you know, again, I think it's really too soon for us to get into any of the, you know, what happens if this is his last season. You know, it's 2 seasons of competition in 4 games, and you know, I think probably just rushing any kind of comments relative to whether this is his last season or not. I think we'd have to probably just tap the brakes on that.
Coach, how's Zy Alexander, and if he has to miss any time, how do you feel about the depth at your cornerback position now that we're 4 weeks into the year?
Yeah, you know, Zy, right now we would list him as questionable, but that could change. You know, we don't have to get into that reporting because it's not an SEC game, but I would say he's questionable right now. We'll see how he feels tomorrow. But, you know, we've got some flexibility there. I feel good about the corner situation. We've got some depth there. We can move some guys around, position flexibility with Javian Toviano can flip over to corner as well. So we're in a pretty good position there.
Coach over here, so Xavier Thomas, you just talked about the play he made on special teams, and you see you get him involved in the running game a little bit, the short passing game. Just talk about his versatility and all that he brings to the table for y'all.
Yeah, I mean, I just like the way he plays the game. You know, he plays it with, you know, right on the edge with kind of almost a recklessness, but under control. He plays with confidence, plays like a veteran that's been there. And look, you love that because you want to go out and, especially in special teams, you want to go out and make blocks for him. You know, you want to go out there and give him a chance to make a play for you. I think he's the best in the country. So why wouldn't you want to be on that team? But I think it's the same way on offense, you know, and he's carrying that, you know, to what he does in running routes and running the football. You know, we missed the block on that counter. If we just kick out the end, that thing's gone for a touchdown. We just miss a block there. So, yeah, I like what he's doing. The versatility, as you mentioned, is what he brings.
Hey, Brian, 2 questions for you. I'm curious if you've ever matched up with Major Applewhite in any games in the past, and what do you kind of remember about those if you have, and maybe how some of his schematics or thought processes have changed? And then 2, how are you guys able to, I guess, somewhat accurately replicate what defenses are giving you guys in practice for Garrett to be able to go out and play the way he's been playing?
I have not, but I know Major Applewhite. You know, we got a chance to spend a good amount of time together in off seasons in the past, clinicking and you know, getting to know him, and got to know him since I've gotten to LSU with his, you know, contacts and relationships here in Baton Rouge. I have a lot of respect for him and what he's accomplished in his career. You know, I think we've been, you know, a bit within the realm of giving Garrett what to expect, but it's been a lot more pressure fronts than we expected. We thought we'd get teams backing off by this time, but they haven't seemed to do that, which, has worked out pretty good for us too. He's thrown the ball effectively. So, again, I think from our perspective, it's even changed our thought process a little bit in terms of, preparation, is that, we have to even take another segment of practice and just have our run game focused on, more pressures. Because if teams are going to continue to do that, we have to look at, what that run game looks like with even more hats.
You got Kyle Parker in the end zone.
Yeah.
What does that mean for a young player to score his first touchdown and his confidence moving forward?
Huge, huge. I mean, I've always said, how do you get these players confidence? They got to go make plays. Confidence comes with making plays. I mean, you could talk about confidence all the time, but he needed to go and make a play. And he made the play, and that was one of the worst dances that I've ever seen in an end zone. He looked like me dancing. So we're going to work on that next. But it was so good for him. He's worked so hard. He had the injury, kind of set him back. He had a great camp. And I thought he was poised to really break out. And then he had the elbow injury that kind of set him back. So I was really happy for him to get that catch. And I think that's going to really help him moving forward.
Just staying in that theme, the ability to spread the ball around. I think 9 different guys had catches. Just,
9, yep.
Yeah, just the job that Joe's doing, obviously Garrett's doing, and the targets are doing.
Yeah, I think it's the nature of the offensive structure in terms of what we've done and how we've done it. I think, Joe and Cortez has a large hand in the passing game in terms of making sure that, look, if you're just focusing in on one guy, it's, last year we had, obviously an alpha and, we had BT as well. This year, it can go to anybody. And now you add the tight end into the mix as your leading receiver right now. It's very difficult to defend us. And the backs are catching it for touchdowns, the tight ends, a number of the receivers. It's a pretty comprehensive passing game. I think we need Chris Hilton back. And this seems to be the week where we feel like we're going to get him back healthy. If we can add that vertical passing game, another element to it, I think it just makes it even better. And that's what this has been about. This has been about, getting all the pieces in place, working out some of the issues that we needed to get better at, doing our job consistently, play in and play out, getting to know the personnel, the strengths and the weaknesses. We've had to get through some injuries. Unfortunately, a big one this weekend, but, we'll get through this one as well and, play a really tough opponent this weekend in South Alabama. So then move on from there. Good? All right, thank you.